Hello, hello. Happy Monday if you're here. If not, happy whatever day it is. Welcome. Something I noticed or I recollected, I think I was also informed by a friend of the channel, Terrence, from Homebrew Detritus, is that I did get a chance to look at the magic mechanics for GLOG. We just looked at the kind of core mechanics and the more martial mechanics. So I thought today, maybe call this a part 2, Electric Boogaloo edition. Take a look at what GLOG has, at least in its basic form, for spellcasting and magic using classes. And magic, I've heard good things about it, but I haven't pre-read it. Haven't read it at all yet. Let me pull it up. One thing I think it's important, we all keep in mind, maybe me in particular, is that, right, GLOG, I think the GLOG rules that we looked at before, it's like version 0.01 or something. It's not a final, published version. People just kind of jumped on it and got a lot of people talking about it and using it as a basis, right? But it's not like it's super polished or anything. It's kind of, here's this basic chassis you can take and do with what you will. I will put a link to this page that we're on, because the magic, I think part of why I missed it originally was that the magic stuff was on a different blog post than the core blogishness was posted. Put it in the chat, and I'll also show it there on the screen. There we go. Posted on the same Goblin Punch blog on, if you're looking up, if you can't use my link and you want to look it up, it was posted on Wednesday, June 19th of 2016. And they say, I've given a lot of thought to casters. I want them to feel different from each other, not just number-wise. Wizards get +4 flarp, while sorcerers get -2 flarp, etc., but with their own subsystem. When I wrote the martial GLOG classes, I tried to do the same thing. Assassins get damage bonuses the more facts they learn about an enemy. Fighters track the number of kills they get with each weapon. Rangers keep track of the largest monster they've killed. Of course, the real place for subsystems is with magic users, so that's one goal. The other goal is to have them function very differently from each other, in addition to feeling different. It's possible to have 2 convoluted subsystems that both take different paths to arrive at 3d6 damage, save for half. So here's what I've got. Wizards are the most flexible. They can learn and cast all the spells in the game. Somewhat conservative, benefit the most from having time to prepare. Sorcerers are the longest lasting. While they can cast the most spells per day, they also have the narrowest selection. They are hosts for their brain's spell hive, so they probably have the least control over the development. Warlocks are the most powerful. If it comes down to a single spell, they can crank it up to 11, overchannel, and mop the floor. They'll pay for it in blood, of course. Clerics are the most reliable. There's no difference between clerical magic and arcane magic. Spells are just one of the many blessings the clerics receive. The difference is that clerical spells aren't routed directly through the cleric. They are handled by heavenly powers who filter out a lot of the risk. They have support of a powerful familiar/patron, but they pay for that too. Saints are the most improvisational and the ones that hew closest to the divine. They don't have spell lists and instead call for miracles, which is a bit of a crapshoot modified by how close the requested miracle is to the deity's portfolio. Honestly, the whole thing sounds a bit dodgy, and I may scrap it. Okay, so there we get an overview of the classes, which I like. I appreciate that the goal here is for the classes to feel differently. They're not just the same thing reskinned. Some of these are interesting. I think the wizard is usually the one that is most flexible. I think that's basically the D&D design, right? Wizards can learn anything, can cast anything, basically. I don't know if in 5e, if sorcerers, I think with sorcerers, their whole thing is the meta magic. I don't know how that factors. I don't recall how that factors into the breadth of spells they have, or in terms of number per day. But here they're saying, look, if you're a sorcerer, you're going to have the most spells slots, whatever you want to do. You're going to have the most ability to cast stuff, but maybe the smallest number of things to cast, different things to cast, and then it might be more of a crapshoot. As a wizard, you're going to get to essentially decide which spells you memorize. Maybe sorcerers, not so much. And then warlocks are the ones that can really just crank the power level of their spells, but they have to pay for it, mentioned in blood. And then clerics being the most reliable. And then interesting, this kind of splitting of clerics and saints, because I think of saint, I would think of a saint as basically being a super high level cleric in a sense, or a cleric that's ascended to demigodhood. And then also maybe the interesting thing is here they're equating clerics with, in some ways, that 5th edition warlock thing, as clerics have the patron. So it's interesting that you have warlocks, but maybe warlocks are different than maybe what we may consider warlocks, at least in the 5e D&D sense, is actually a type of cleric. So that's kind of interesting as well. Now let's get down to the casting mechanic. I'm going to draw inspiration from WFRP, was at Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, D6 Fantasy, Mateo Diaz Torres, and the system I used in my earliest Eldritch Americana system, which parenthetically notes is 3d6 plus mods versus DC. Bad things happen on doubles or triples. So wizards get 1 magic die per level. At level 1, they have 1d6 sitting in their magic pool. At level 4, they have 4d6 sitting in their magic pool. Class abilities max out at level 4 in the GLOG, so that's the most that they could have. Whenever they cast a spell, they can roll any number of dice from their pool. The dice are tallied, and any dice that come up 5 or 6 are depleted. Depleted dice are removed from the pool and not replaced until the next day. The sum of the dice must meet a certain threshold for a certain effect. Roll well, and your spell might be more powerful, similar to how DCC spells vary in power whenever they're cast. I actually use a similar system for my magic, which I've actually extended to using for other abilities that my heroes have, which is you get a certain amount of dice per level. I don't think with mine I have it as 1 die per level. But I have that same thing when you're casting spells, you're sort of risking this. 5 or 6s get lost, other ones come up. So for my spell casting characters, they have a chance to get multiple spells in a day, but it's that risk reward thing. You want to use more dice because you want to meet the spell number you need to succeed, or you want to hopefully succeed on it, but then doing that means that you're going to have a higher potential of losing dice. Or you could take a chance with just a couple of dice, have a higher potential failure, but you have a better ability to hold on to your dice. I like that kind of risk reward for them. Doubles on the dice signify chaos. Triples signify corruption. Obviously, you can't get doubles unless you roll at least 2 dice, so level 1 casters are safe. Also, spells can fail if you only invest 1 magic die, but not if you invest 2 or more. The threshold for reliability is the same as the threshold for chaos. Let's do the math. All right. With 1 magic die, 17% fizzle, 83% cast at level 1. Oh, so I sorry, I didn't read the bullet point. So a level 1 spell, you have to roll 2. Level 2 spell, you have to roll an 8. A level 3 spell is 14, and a level 4 spell is 20. So at level 1, to cast a level 1 spell, you've got a 17% chance of a fizzle, 83% chance to cast. Or I say that's with 1 magic die. I'm not sure. What is the fizzle? Is fizzle just not working? Okay. So that's a level 1 character spells are going to fizzle 1/6 of the time. I see. Okay. I think I'm getting it now. So yeah, that is the failure rate. So that 17 is really the 16.66666 whatever 7 if you roll the 1, because a level 1 spell is only going to fail on a natural 1 with 1, even if you're just using 1 die, right? So that's that 17%. So that's the fizzles, the failure. With 2 dice, 58% chance to cast at level 1, 42% level cast at level 2, 3 dice, 16% cast at level 1, 68 at level 2, 16 at level 3. With 4 dice, 3% cast at level 1. They say 3%. I think they mean fizzle. No, that can't be right. Why is with 2 dice? Yeah, with 2 dice, you can't possibly. I'm not actually sure what that means. They lost me a little bit. I get with one magic die, 17% chance to fizzle. Right, you got a 17 more or less chance to miscast your level 1 spell. Once you have 2 dice, why does it say 58% to cast level 1? I think they must mean level 2 spells. I must be missing something, right? Because let's see, if you have to roll 8, that means your average roll on a six-sided die is 3.5. So I don't know. I'd have to do it, and maybe have to bring up any dice. I feel like I'm missing something here, but here are these numbers giving us the math, which I do appreciate, because I think I was talking to, I forget, it might have been Daniel from Bandits Keep on Discord, and I mentioned that I love all the different ways that GMs will have these dice systems, but I do think that something I like about unified mechanics, particularly the simple ones like D20, is that it's very easy to get a handle on what your odds are of doing things. Whereas when you have all of these, and I'm guilty of it myself because I use a dice pool system in my game, I think if I was going to do it over again with this group, I might have figured out a way to do it with just a D20, simply because then it's just easier for the players to understand what their odds are. And frankly, easier for me as well. I lose track of, okay, it's 3 dice and they got to roll this. It gets a little bit, if I'm not using a program to sit there and calculate out the things, it's a little bit confusing. I'm not that great at it. And I think just knowing that, it's these many numbers, each die on a D20 is essentially 5%, right? Super easy. I mean, you might say, well, just, why not use a D100, in which case you could just know exactly your percentages. But in any case, we've got the magic system here as far as the dice. A level 1 character spells are going to fizzle 1/6 of the time, which sounds appropriate. And higher level characters will be discouraged from casting spells with only a single magic die invested. Just invest another die and remove that horrible failure chance. A level 2 character spell is somewhere between a level 1 spell and a level 2 spell. Yes, this means that a level 2 wizard can potentially cast a level 2 spell, but whatever. That single spell might deplete all their dice for the day. An increase in average power is balanced by unreliability. I would agree with that. A level 3 character could throw down all of their magic dice to cast a level 2 spell 68% of the time. That's right in the middle. Perfect. They'll probably have 1 or 2 dice left over, which means that this is comparable to the 2/1 of vanilla D&D. A level 4 character can throw down all 46 of their magic dice to cast what averages out to be a level 2.5 spell, which also seems about right. If they conserve a little, this is roughly comparable to the 2/2 casting scheme of a vanilla D&D wizard. These D6s also map pretty well to fireball damage. A level 3 wizard can invest 3 magic dice to drop a 3d6 fireball, which is sort of like a fireball cast at spell level 2. All right. Hey, Don Rossavelli. Nice to see you. So we got a bunch of stuff here. Essentially, he's figured out that the dice, this dice pool method maps fairly well. Not perfectly, but fairly well to, say, BX or vanilla D&D wizardry, which is good. Right? And like I said, I'm fine with, hey, you can potentially cast more spells, but at the same time, there's a potential you could cast less, right? There's level wizard, you've got 3 dice. You decide to roll all 3 dice to do something. You roll 5, 6, 6. You cast that 1 spell, and you've blown your dice for the day, and you're done. So it's not like you can't actually end up casting less spells, but I also think it's cool if you can get lucky and you cast a bunch of spells. As they mentioned, yes, you're getting more potential spells, but there's that higher unreliability. You can't just count on the fact that you're going to get X amount of slots or whatever castings every day. Wizards get safety casting. Once per day, they can replace one of their rolled dice with a natural 1 as if it was rolled. This is useful to avoid doubles/triples or to prevent a die from becoming exhausted. That's an interesting idea. So that that, let's say you want to roll 2 dice to cast a level 1 spell because you want to make sure it works. You could use that safety to make one of the dice a 1, so that at most you would only lose 1 of the dice. I like that. Wizards get power casting. Once per day, they can replace one of their rolled dice with a natural 6, as if it was rolled. This is useful to avoid doubles/triples or to meet the next threshold for a spell. My question with these is, are you doing this before or after? Are you rolling your dice and then using the safety or power casting, or are you using this and then rolling the dice? I'm guessing that it's after, though I don't know. Because it said this is useful to avoid doubles/triples, but if you're doing it before you roll the dice, what if you get another 6? Then you've gotten doubles. So I'm not sure it makes sense if you're not doing it afterwards, but I don't know. Unsure on that one. If someone's familiar, Terrence, if you float into the chat at some point, if you're familiar with whether this is supposed to be a pre rolling the dice maneuver or post rolling the dice maneuver, let me know. Or somebody else, if you know, let me know. Nothing. Hey, nothing says it must be after, or it wouldn't avoid doubles exact. Yeah, that's what I figure. It would seem the most to me, though. I'm also kind of a fan of making those choices before you roll. But yeah, that does make sense. So those are some special things that. Oh, sorry. So I miswrote. So wizards get safety casting, which they can make a 1. Warlocks get power casting. I was thinking it was wizards both. Warlocks get the power casting. So this is now we're differentiating between the types of spell casting. So wizards can make a die once per day. They can make a dice a 1. Warlocks can turn them into a 6. Sorcerers get natural casting. Their magic dice are only depleted on a natural 6 instead of a 5 or 6. So they have basically, if it goes from essentially a 33% chance of losing a die to just that 16.666666 chance of losing a die. They get a lot more mileage out of the same number of casting dice. They're also at a lot higher risk for doubles and triples, but maybe their chaos/corruption tables aren't that bad. I don't know. Why are they at a lot higher risk for doubles and triples? I'm not sure. Did I miss something about when? Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know why they say that. Why would sorcerers be a lot higher risk? Because they keep their dice. I guess because they keep their dice longer. Since they can keep their dice for a longer amount of time, we're going to use more dice more often. Therefore, they risk more. That's the only thing I can think of. Anyway, you can already see that the themes of wizard/conservatism, warlock/power, and sorcerer/stamina are already emerging. Good-ish. One hilarious effect of this system is that it means wizards can't prepare all of their spells at the beginning of the day, since some of their magic dice will be returning to them after they cast a spell. Perhaps they can spend 10 minutes to prepare any spell? I imagine it going like this. Level 2 wizard prepares a 2D magic missile. Casts 2D magic missile, rolls 4,6, which means that one of the magic dice is exhausted. The wizard then takes a 10-minute break with her spellbook and prepares a 1-die Speak with Dead, which means that a wizard now has a good reason to haul their spellbook around with them instead of leaving it at the dungeon entrance. I love that. Can we reinforce that bookishness more? So what I'm tended to do is actually, I do something a little bit different in my game. And since my game uses some of these same things, I figure it's apropos. I allow them to keep their spells memorized unless they really fail their roll. If they really fail their rolls, they've forgotten the spell. And having forgotten it, it takes them downtime to relearn it. And so they don't have to carry their spell books around. They can basically keep a bunch of their spells in their brain. But once they've lost it for a while. But this is interesting too. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I could see definitely adapting it instead. And yeah, you carry your spell book around. And then when you have these breaks in the dungeon, which you're supposed to have once an hour anyway, then you can use that break in the dungeon to re-memorize. So that's cool. I could dig that. See, nothing says because their dice abilities can't be used to get out of a double. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it can. They can turn that 6. I guess. I think it's more because they keep more dice longer. I mean, that's what I tend to think, but I don't know. We'll see. So now the wizard has a reason to carry around a big pile of scrolls, and by leaving uninvested at the start of the day, a wizard can now cast any spell on the spot, albeit slower, riskier, and less powerfully than if they had prepared it in the morning. Moving on. All right. So we got that little bit about wizards and book casting. Oh, no, wait. Sorry, I skipped the book casting part. So a wizard can cast a spell directly out of a spellbook or scroll as if they prepared it in the morning. The spell returns to the spellbook/scroll in the morning. Spells cast this way are always one magic die, and the wizard must have one magic die to invest. This requires both hands to hold the book, and the wizard always loses initiative. If the wizard is damaged or disrupted while casting, the spell fizzles. Okay, I see. So now we have this idea you're carrying around a bunch of scrolls and your spellbook. I don't think I like the idea that scrolls, they come back in the morning. Maybe your spellbook, though I kind of like your spellbook, and it's like, you really need it badly. It just burns out of the book. Not sure if I would just give it back to the next morning, but I'm a little bit of I kind of like that idea of having to make that big choice. Like, you're carrying around your spellbook with you. You don't have a 10-minute break. This beast is about to burn down the door and get in at you, and you've got that fireball sitting there in your book, but it's not memorized, and the party is... Maybe you're the only one left standing. The party's about to die, but you're pretty darn sure this fireball is going to take it out. Do you just use your book, but then burn that fireball spell out of your book? Maybe if you've got it memorized and can't use it, you can then spend some time to write it back in your book. Potentially. I'm not sure, right? But in this case, you don't have the spell. You have to sacrifice your book for this kind of a cool moment. It's kind of cool, right? It just coming back the next day, I don't know. I mean, it's nice for the wizard, right? It makes it more of an option, but I'm not sure if I like that. But that's me. Now we have a Warlock ability, Overchannel. After rolling magic dice and summoning the results, a Warlock can choose to roll an Overchannel die and add it to the sum. They take damage equal to the result showing on the Overchannel die. The Overchannel die can cause doubles and triples as usual. If the Overchannel die causes a double or triple, the Warlock takes another 1d6 damage. So this is interesting. After rolling the magic dice and summing the results, a Warlock can choose to roll an Overchannel die and add it to the sum. So I guess this is part of not the damage of the spell, but the casting of the spell, or could you use... I would allow them to use it in either damage, whatever. If there are dice to be rolled as part of the spell, you can overchannel any part of it. I would let them do that. I like it. I like the fact that they're taking damage. And then I like that if they happen to roll something they already rolled, they get that double or triple, then they're going to take more damage. I do dig that. I might play around with that a little bit more. And then I'm not quite sure what to give the sorcerer. I'm thinking beneficial mutation related to what type of sorcerer they are. Fire sorcerers become immune to fire and can eat anything flammable. Fish sorcerers can breathe water and talk to fish. That sort of ish. I don't know. I feel like that's not... I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me that much. I can see it appealing to players, though, so it just might be me just being a mean old GM. Sample chaos table. Here's the table for an enchanter. Other wizard types will have other chaos tables. Chaos tables are mostly bad, but occasionally helpful. I don't really know what an enchanter is in this case. We're talking about someone who charms people, I'm guessing. So here's the chaos table, which I think happens... Let me just scroll up. I think it's if you roll a double... Yeah, doubles on the dice signify chaos. Triples are corruption. Okay, so if you roll doubles... If you were an enchanter, then you would potentially roll on this table. And the kind of stuff that they're envisioning on these sorts of tables, I'll just read through these ones for this enchanter. You are made susceptible to charm. Every command you hear functions as a command, the spell. By default, there is a 50% chance that language-using enemies are shouting something that can be strued as a command. Lasts 1d6 rounds. You imitate another person or creature nearby, chosen at random. You attempt to do whatever they do. Lasts 1d6 rounds. You become empathic to all pain suffered around you. Whenever a creature takes damage within 50 feet of you, you take 1 psychic damage. Lasts 1d6 rounds. I'm guessing all these are going to last... Oh, no. Oh, I was going to say they all last 1d6 rounds, but there's some of them that last longer. A random creature within 50 feet must save, or you will both switch bodies. Last 1d6 rounds. You immediately blab the worst thing possible. You either tell the enemies about your secret weakness, insult one enemy that can kill you, or embarrass yourself horribly. You fall asleep as per the sleep spell. Lasts until someone slaps you. You fall in love with whatever you are looking at. If this isn't already obvious, roll randomly. It lasts 1d6 days. All creatures in 50 feet are overcome with empathy and will strive to talk over any disagreements. Violence is impossible. If you aren't in combat, the party will spend their time talking about their feelings and hugging. The affected creature with the best save rolls for everyone affected. Save negates lasts 10 minutes. So those are some kind of interesting, right? Enchanter as in enchanting people, charming them. So all this stuff has to do with charming and empathy and things like that. The last one, which was number 8, is actually a positive one. I would say mostly. Everything else is fairly negative in some way. Now for a sample corruption table. Whenever you roll on the corruption table, roll on the chaos table 2, go big. Okay, so beyond whatever corruption you get, you're going to get some chaos as well. And then additionally, this is a D4 roll. You gain 1d6 trauma points. I forget what trauma does, but obviously you don't want it. 2, you gain a random mutation. 3, you gain a doom. 4, you become an utter thrall and will obey whoever has the highest charisma as if you are affected by a dominate spell. That lasts for 1d6 days. And then there's a note. The first 3 entries are probably the same for all wizards. The 4th is specific to the wizard's school. So we'll get an idea of what dooms are, or at least in terms of magic users. If you gain a doom, put a +1 next to the spell that caused it. You now get +1 to the magic sum whenever you attempt to cast it. Among other things, this means you can now cast the spell with 1 magic die without any chance of failure. Then you're done patting yourself on the back. This stuff happens. First doom of the Enchanter. You become possessed by a random demon for 1 day. This demon is based on, and then you roll a d4, lust and poison, rage and fire, gluttony and mutation, ice and knowledge, lies. In parentheses, lies. Knowledge, in parentheses, lies. The demon has no way to exit the body or manifest, but it is HD 8 plus 1d6. Second doom of the Enchanter. You become possessed by a demon for a week. This is the same demon as last time. Third doom of the Enchanter. You become possessed by a demon permanently and your soul is devoured. This is the same demon as last time. And then, so they don't mention it specifically, but these would be, well, I think you can tell by that titles. These are all for that theoretical Enchanter. Dooms are all school specific. A Chthonimancer would eventually turn into a small mountain. A Biomancer turns into a cancerous mass. A Cosmomancer will eventually be abducted and impregnated by moon beasts. I'll pass. Pass on that one. Dooms are meant to be a gradually rising meter of how effed a wizard is. This is why powerful wizards don't cast powerful spells all the time. You get an apprentice to do that stuff. If you survive the third doom, you're in the clear. Dooms are designed to be a horrible, unavoidable death unless the player actively seeks out a way to circumvent it. In this case, the player will, hopefully, start looking for a way to kill that particular demon after surviving their first doom. So dooms both A, inspire players to go on personal quests to escape their doom, and B, allow for character improvement narratively away from the leveling system. I'm good at casting Charm because the last time I cast it, a demon burned it into my forebrain. You also stop getting those cute little +1s to spells, but whatever, you escaped certain doom. Oh, so you don't get to keep the +1s? That's interesting. I might think if you could, I would actually say, I think I would disagree with that. Well, disagree. I think my take would be, if you get one of these dooms, and let's say we're following the doom of the Enchanter, and you can possessed by a random demon, at that point, as the GM, I would have to roll and create this demon with a name and everything else. At that point, if you can find that demon and destroy it before you get your third doom, and then it possesses you permanently, I would allow you to have those permanent pluses. I would say, yeah, you earned it. You went and you did that, and you're not going to get, and maybe I would say you're not going to get any experience for killing that demon. What you're going to get is that permanent pluses to that spell. You become a super amazing Enchanter, or whatever that spell happens to be that now you're going to have +2 on, because if you get that, the +3 you're not going to get because you're dead. But you could get +2. Now we get some sample spells. Fireball has a range of 50 feet. Target is 50 feet in diameter. Save for half. Deals fire damage equal to the magic sum. I think the thing is to notice here, and I've been messing around with this, but I hadn't gotten as far as to actually put it into spells, is basically, I'm guessing all these are going to be levelless, right? There's no level to fireball. It's just going to deal fire damage equal to the sum. I've been doing things a little bit differently in my, I guess, prototypes of this, because one thing that I've been thinking about things like fireball, right? Because in this case, your level 1 fireball is still doing a D6. Let's say if you roll a 6 when you cast it, then that would be D6 to a 20-foot diameter, which maybe is a lot for a first level spell. Though maybe you might say, oh, well, sleep can do it. But sleep kind of goes out of style. At some point, a couple of those fireballs are just going to get better and better. Though maybe in this case, we'll see if they have a version of sleep. Maybe sleep just allows you to improve. But I do like the idea of the scope coming up. I've been dealing with, well, the way I've been thinking about it is how many dice represent the range and target area versus the damage. So maybe the way I would think about it, though, I run into problems because you get to that 3rd or 4th level whenever fireball is supposed to be, and I don't end up being at that power level. This one does a better job, I think, of when you get to level 3 or 4, whatever it is, you're at that, say level 4, you're at 46 fireball, which that you're supposed to. Whereas me, it ends up being maybe it's 10 foot of range for each die, and then beyond that, something like that. So mine's not as neat, but it's kind of interesting. So you have fireball. You can be able to cast it with however many dice you have. Your fire damage is equal to the magic sum. You get a target area of 20 feet. Save or half. Then you get firebolt, which has a much longer range, 200 feet. You got to succeed on a range attack roll. You deal fire damage to the target equal to twice the magic sum. Then flight, range touch, duration, your magic sum divided by 4. You gain fly 24. Humble hut, range touch, duration 8 hours. You stack 2 stones on top of each other and they grow into a hut. This takes 10 minutes. Hut is 10 feet in diameter. What is 8 or more? Oh, I see. If your magic sum, I'm guessing your magic sum is 8 or more. The cabin is 20 foot square. And then 20 or more. And then you just get bigger house until you get a castle. This one, see, this is the problem. I guess maybe I would say, of course, depending on what's going on. Hey, Jack. Jack Nerdlord. What did you miss? You missed me going over maybe the first 2/3 of Magic and GLOG. Don says Todd's making BX Sorcerers. I wouldn't go that far. GLOG Magic. Right now we're going through their spells. I went through already how they're doing the magic and sort of differentiations. Here I'll post again, highlight it if you want to go and follow along with where this is posted from. I also do a bonus one because I guess Coins and Scrolls blog did sort of rift on this magic system, and we could take a look at that. Terrence was kind enough to send me that link as well, so we could check that out. So the one thing with the humble hut, right? So I guess there's assuming you could just assume, okay, maybe that's a wizard you don't have the humble hut, but this is one of the things people get angry about it with 5th edition is how many low-level abilities seem to make the challenges of exploration and survival kind of moot, right? Oh, I've got good berries, so we don't need to look for food. And the ranger can't get lost, so we don't have to do that. I think actually often those are overblown, but still, they are there. And yes, you can't deny that you don't have to spend time packing supplies or doing stuff if the druid can just good berry every day. Unless you start house rule or you're used to coming up with why, creatures would get sick if they ate good berry every day or something like that. It's not in the spell description. We're just trying to make it something to make people do other things. If you have humble hut, it kind of takes some of the sting out of camping. Though I suppose it doesn't say that nobody can come in. It just says it has a locking door. So I suppose it's just you've made this hut, but it's not like it's more like a real hut. So yes, it's going to give you some shelter, but it's not going to make you prevent people from attacking you. But this seems like something I would want to figure out a way so that it doesn't. I mean, I like the fact of having parties think about where they're camping and what they're doing and how they're setting up. And maybe I would think that maybe the Humble Hut does a little bit more than I would want. But I suppose as I'm reading it over and looking at it, it's not. It doesn't have any of the special abilities that I forget some of the ones have in the current game, where essentially nothing can get in that you don't allow, things like that. This seems to be that it is just a hut. Though the one thing I'm coming around on it with my kind of magic, I like it, is I don't like magic that creates a lot of stuff. I kind of feel like that's the most powerful things if you're just creating stuff out of nothing. So the idea that you're creating this whole thing out of 2 stones, I don't know if I love that mechanically, just from my own kind of idea of magic, at least in my current incarnation. But again, I do appreciate that these things are all have nothing to do with your spell level. They're just spells, and they just become more effective the more magic you throw at it. So we have Invisibility. That's another interesting one that you can get at potentially at first level, but it only lasts rounds equal to the magic sum. So it's not going to last a long time. Even if you were to roll a 20, that would be 200 seconds. If you're using 10-second rounds, or what is it, 180 or 120 if you're using 6-second rounds. So not a super long time. And then the effect is dispelled if the target moves or makes an attack roll. Interesting. Oh, and then if you get 8 or more, the effect is no longer dispelled if you moved. And then 14 or more, effect is no longer dispelled if a target attacks. That's kind of cool. So they've sort of taken what we would maybe call invisibility, and then greater invisibility, and they've basically just factored in how much you've done, which is kind of cool. Magic Missile, 200-foot range, 1 missile per die, which unerringly hits. Each magic die is a missile, which deals 1d6 plus 1 damage to its target, each chosen independently. So you can throw out a bunch of missiles. Power word kill. If the magic sum is equal to or greater than the target's current HP, it dies. No Fun Allowed said, did I see my video made the list in Questing Beast Gazetteer? Awesome stuff. Yes, I did. Thanks, No Fun Allowed. Yeah, it was kind of a fun thing to spot this morning. I think I actually did post about it on the channel. So yeah, that was nice. I don't know if it'll bring more folks in here checking out, or if they'll just see the interview or whatnot. Obviously, Questing Beast has about 40 times the amount of eyeballs. Probably more than that, actually, if you're looking at just raw amount of people who view his videos. I think on subscribers, he's about 40 times more than I am. So yeah, it was nice. So yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad that you saw it. Let's see. Now, nothing says that hut would be more trouble than it's worth. Every creature walking by. Was there a giant stone hut here yesterday? Yes. Right. That is interesting, and you could have some fun with that. Absolutely. And then Jack Nerdlord says, good idea on Invis. Yeah, I think that is a good one. I do like some of these. It is making me think some interesting ways you could retool the spells. I'd already been trying to do things in a similar way with making spells kind of levelless. But part of what I was trying to figure out was working the way I was thinking about it, which is probably more complicated and probably not worth it, was thinking things like range and target area, factoring that in as working with the magic too. But I'll definitely have to rethink some of those in light of this, because I do like what some of these have done. I definitely think invisibility is one of them. So we've got power word kill. Then we have summon Ix. And Ix is created at the point you designated and obeys a single command given by you at the time of its summoning. The Ix is HD1. I don't know what an Ix is. Does somebody know what an Ix is? Don says, I'm a proud subscriber here, Todd. You made me love being obsessed with hex crawls and OSR. Oh, well, thanks, Don. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm glad I was inspirational. No one's told me yet that I've driven people running, screaming from the hobby, so I appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody who's subscribed or been a patron now or in the past. It certainly helps me out. Okay, and then we have water breathing. Touch 1 creature per magic die. This one, interesting that they give you a 2-hour on water breathing. I suppose that also makes sense, because you tend not to need to water breathe if it's just for couple seconds, right? You generally need some time. And so instead of having the range be dependent on the dice, so they could have done like magic die hours or something, which might have been enough, but one creature per die means you're spending your dice to basically do more of a group water breathing. What would they be called? Like mass water breathing, right? Is what they would probably call it. All right, so that's about it for that doc. So we got some good stuff. Like I said before, I do like what they're doing there. I don't necessarily, obviously your miles are gonna vary with some things. There's some of them that maybe I don't love as much as others, but I appreciate everything that they're doing. Here, the magic dice is interesting because I had not read this at all, and obviously it predates what I've been doing by a couple of years as terms on the dice. One thing I liked is that my dice pools is not just casters. I have other character abilities that work on dice pools. So because I kind of been striving to have sort of universal systems for, like I mentioned before, at least I feel like they allow someone to go from class to class and not have to try to relearn a whole bunch of stuff that didn't apply before. All right, here's where we're going now. So Terrence, friend of the channel, Terrence, sent me this. Actually sent me both links. This is the second link he sent, which seems interesting. So we can see now that we saw the basic. So we saw the basic chassis, the basic GLOG chassis for how the spell system works generally, how the different flavors of magic users are in that system, and then some sample spells and some interesting ideas. The corruption and chaos are interesting. It does have a little bit of that DCC vibe. The one thing, I wonder if it would be possible, I've never really looked at it, but one of the things not that I dislike about DCC, but it's a little bit unwieldy, is they have each spell has its own table, which I think is cool, but it's a lot of work to maintain. You got to kind of have those pages handy at all times so that you can, every time someone casts a spell, to potentially have to look on a specific table. I wonder if you could do a table per school of magic. I kind of think I like the idea of the schools of magic. Oh, this is an enchantment spell. This is a whatever spell. I wonder if you could make generic spell failure or chaos, corruption tables, whatever, for each school to get close to having that flavor of, hey, this is kind of what spell school it is, and maybe you could put some kind of language that would fit a bunch of them. So for an enchantment type spell, you could reference charm or something, or you could say something like whatever effect you were trying to imprint using the spell on the target becomes imprinted on you, right? Something like that. I don't know, something like that, so you can kind of get that kind of cool factor that DCC and these tables have without having to have tons and tons of different tables. So you can just have one document with, oh, you casted an enchantment spell, this happens, or you cast a fire spell, this happens, that kind of thing. This was posted in the far off year of 2017 on, what is that, June or July 3rd? I guess July 3rd, 2017. On the Coins and Scrolls blog, titled OSR, Condensed Spellcasting Rules, which I have put in the chat. This post is based on Arnold K's system for GLOG Wizards. I've tweaked it, condensed it, and adjusted it for my personal preferences. Your mileage may vary. Spells are creatures. Angels, demons, spells, enchantments, ghosts, and souls are all more or less the same. Most spells are about as intelligent as a ferret, but they grow and mature just like any living thing. An ancient mage's spells are often as crafty and subtle as their caster, though spells' mind and goals are still alien. A wizard's spellbook is a prison or a menagerie. Spells are locked inside, ready to be taken out and loaded into the wizard's brain. A well-trained brain is a mind gun, loaded each morning with spell bullets. Minor spells, called cantrips, infest the wizard's soul and bind to it. You can imagine them as extra, mutated limbs, except stuck to the soul and not to the body. Spells can be bred and trained. Wizards train in self-delusion, meditation, and other esoteric techniques to modify their own minds to make them more accommodating to spells, and to tap into the raw magic that suffuses the world. A wizard's mind is a dangerous place. For every 10 students who enter the Grand College of Elderstone, only 3 emerge alive and sane. Then nothing says, do you need more than 1 chaos table? It's magic chaos. Shouldn't it be random, not based on the spell you're trying to cast? I can see that too. I think conceptually they were assuming there would be a chaos table, maybe per, if it wasn't per, I think they said per, some of it would be, I keep saying per, some of it would be generic, I think, across all magic, and then other ones were, I think, released to be maybe to the school. So like I was thinking, okay, enchanters have all that. I like the idea that the chaos you get is different because it's what you're dealing with, right? So if I'm casting a fire spell, to me it seems, if you think about maybe what a fire spell is doing, a fire spell is potentially, let's say in our setting, a fire spell is you are literally making bringing in something from the elemental plane of fire. You are calling forth this from the everlasting eternal source of flame, and then you are bringing that into the world. That whatever chaos comes of that is going to be somewhere in that connection, but it's going to reference fire because that's what you're trying to access, as opposed to anything. That's just how I see it. You could see it differently. You could see it as something goes completely awry. So it's like pressing the button on the improbability drive in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you get a bowl, a bowl of petunias and a sperm whale. Sure, right? It's how do you see it? How do you see those mishaps happening? I could definitely see either way. There's no wrong answer. It's just kind of what seems natural or fitting to you, given how magic works in your system. Don says, I like the DCC idea of magic, especially the crit fail options. However, during play, it can become kind of OP, but also dangerous to anyone close to the magic user. I'm not a fan of spell slots. Yeah, right. And how much do you want to have the issues of the magic user be foisted upon the rest of the party? Ovaltine Patrol says, how many students emerge dead and insane? Yeah, it's interesting. Is that a separate number? Is there 3 alive and sane, 2 alive but insane, 4 dead but sane, and then 1 dead and insane? And which came first, the deadness or the insanity? All right, open question. Jack Nordenlord says, I like per school. It's a solid idea. Yep, I would say it is a solid idea. All right, let's keep on going with the coins and scrolls. So now, spell casting. It takes 1 hour to move any number of spells between your brain and a scroll, spellbook, or wand. I guess it's at either direction, right? So that would mean it'd be an hour to learn to memorize a spell from a spellbook or to write a spell from your brain to a spellbook. I'm guessing that's what he's saying. And the idea of the wand is interesting too, that you can imprint it on the wand within an hour. To cast a spell, select the number of magic dice you wish to invest, roll them, add the numbers together. As a wizard, you get 1 magic dice per wizard template. That's your level. Most spells depend on the number of dice invested and the sum they show. If you roll doubles, see the mishaps section. If you roll triples, see the doom section. So he's taken the concepts of chaos and corruption and turn them into mishaps and dooms. Dice that roll 1 to 3 return to your casting pool and can be used again that day. Dice that roll 4 to 6 are removed from your casting pool for the day. Your spells return at sunrise at last location they were imprisoned when the octarine light of the sun touches the world and infuses creation with an extra boost of raw magic. Your magic dice return if you get a good night's sleep. If you didn't sleep well, you can save for each magic die to have them return to your pool anyway. So I guess the notable things here, changes are that instead of just 5 and 6s that are removed, 4 through 6s. So now you have a 50% chance of losing your dice anytime you cast them. Your spells return at sunrise to the last location they were imprisoned. I guess this is saying imprisoning is basically that memorization. So they return to wherever you memorize them when the octarine light of the sun touches the world. That's an interesting bit. I wonder how that's going to come in. So does that mean that you're going to want to be very tactical or maybe it's what's the other word? Strategic about where you memorize spells? Because if you memorize it in just a random campsite during a hex crawl, your spells are going to go back to that random campsite, so that you need to return there if you want that spell again. I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to keep reading to see what is meant. What do you mean by that? Coins and scrolls. Spell books. A solid volume with thick vellum pages and a sturdy cover. Each school produces its own style. In special runes and symbols, trap spells inside cages of crystallized thought. Each book contains 10 spell slots. Some spells must be stored across several pages for safety, so the book contains more than 10 pages and have plenty of room for notes, ledgers, or sketches. Spell books start in a waterproof, acid and fire resistant bag. Outside the bag, they are not waterproof. They are flammable, and they are also valuable. Each book is worth 10 gold pieces, even if it contains no spells. All right, so we learn a little bit about spell books, how they work in this setting, in this incarnation of this magic system. Scrolls, a spell from the spell, a page from a spell book, effectively, but with some extra magic built in. If you cast a spell from a scroll, you can choose to burn the scroll. If you do, add +1 magic dice to your roll. This magic dice does not return to your pool. You can generate mishaps and dooms while using a scroll. A blank scroll is worth a gold piece. Wands. Wands are like scrolls, but customized for quick use, concealment, and rapid reuse. A wand has a number of banked magic dice. You can spend these magic dice when you cast a spell from a wand, but you can't add in your own magic dice. These magic dice do not return to your pool or the wand's pool. It takes a standard 1 hour to load a spell from your brain or spellbook into a wand. Using a wand can generate mishaps and dooms. All right, so you get this kind of wands is kind of interesting. I'm not sure if I love all of it, but I like some of it. I like the idea that a wand just has a simple number of dice in it. Oh, this is a 4 magic die wand, which would be pretty good. I suppose if you cast, I guess maybe the wands pool works as a caster's pool. So if you don't roll 4, 5s, and 6s, you get them back. You can load, or I guess you could load a spell from your brain or your spellbook into a wand. I don't know if that means you can't use the wand to cast a spell if you don't. So I was wondering, so it seems like you can't use a spell to cast. You can't use a wand to cast a spell from your brain. You have to put a spell in the wand, and then you can cast from the wand. I think that's what they're saying. You can choose when you move a spell to try to invest 1 magic die into the wand. You can only do this once per day, and you take d6 damage from the strain. The magic die invested in the wand is permanently added to the wand's MD bank. Magic die bank. Each day, you could add another magic die to the bank as above. Banking a magic die reduces your total for the day, but you regain the full number of magic dice with a good night's sleep. My only issue with this, okay, never mind. I think it's kind of covered. So most wands can only accept 4 banked magic dice and 1 spell. Larger wands called staves can hold to 6 banked magic dice and up to 3 spells. Wands are traditionally made from the wood of lightning-struck trees. Non-spellcasters can use wands. If they suffer a mishap, use the table from the school that prepared the wand. If they suffer a doom, they automatically suffer the 3rd doom from the wand's school, which usually means instant death. So you can use wands kind of at your own peril. I was going to say, like, about the banking a magic die, like what prevents you just during your downtime of banking, bazillion amount of magic dice. But it seems like you're limited to 6 at most. 4 to 6. 4 with wands, 6 with staves. It does mean that given enough time over downtime, that any staves or wands you possess, you just imagine are filled anytime you get ready to go into an adventure, which is fine, I guess. But not necessarily a problem. Identifying magic. Wizards can smell magic in the air. By tasting, rubbing, or closely inspecting an item, you can tell if it is magic. You may need to test the item to determine what type of magic. You could test intelligence to see if you can learn anything else about the item without testing it. Mishaps. If you roll doubles while casting a spell, roll on your school's mishap table. Unless otherwise I specified, the spell still works. Magic is dangerous. This was just a hiccup. A hiccough? Hiccup? Is that like an older version of hiccup? Hiccough? Makes sense. Or misfire. Dooms. If you roll triples while casting a spell, one of your school's dooms takes effect. Each school has 3 dooms. The 3rd doom is invariably fatal or worse. All wizards walk a dangerous path. They burn their souls like candles, and in doing so, court damnation. Whoops. All right. So there we have kind of coin and scrolls. I like part of it. I'm not sure if I love the spells as living things. I think it's really interesting. They didn't explained. He did not explain how like spells returning to the place that they were imprisoned, what that actually means. But it's kind of cool to think about. Jack Nerdlord likes that a wand could kill the user. Yeah, and I would definitely, in this kind of system, I would probably, because I think thieves get the ability to use wands at some point. I might open it up to anybody. But yes, I do like that you can use it, but whereas wizards can get, or magic users can get, say, 3 dooms, you're just going to get 1, and then the worst thing's going to happen. So you definitely don't want that doom. And it's something I would definitely make sure is people are aware of. Hey, you can use wands, but non-wizards using wands, it's gonna be dicey, and you have a not good chance, but some kind of chance of you got to roll triples. So I don't know what the odds are of triples on, say, 3d6. It's not very high, but it's a non-zero chance, right? There's a non-zero chance of instant fatality or worse if you're a non-magic user type and you cast a spell. Pretty cool stuff. So that is basically GLOG spellcasting, and then this riff on GLOG magic and spellcasting, I should say, and then this riff. My cat is just giving me an odd look right now. What are you doing over there, Bruce? GLOG, it's distracting me. I wish I could turn my camera because he's got this just funny look on his face. Anyway. That's GLOG magic and spellcasting. I like it mostly. The stuff with the dice is interesting because I've been going down that path myself, though I've extended it from just spellcasting to basically other character abilities, and that was basically so that if a character, I have new players, they can just learn the system, and then if they go to a fighter type class, it will have similar dice pool. Wizards, similar dice pools. Everyone has a similar dice pool, and I also thought if someone wanted to multi-class, it was an interesting way of balancing multi-class because you have one dice pool. It's just basically your character level. Though mine's not as neatly, I think it's 1 per level. I think mine goes up a little bit, has a different ascension of how many dice you get. Though I'd probably have to look at it again. I don't remember off the top of my head. But in any case, if you were to say be a fighter wizard, sure, you get some wizard abilities, you get some fighter abilities, but they're both using the same dice pool. So if you use 3 dice of your dice to cast a spell, great. Now you don't have that to use for fighter stuff, or vice versa. It's definitely interesting to see that this take was there that was predated mine, but I just never saw it. I like the dooms. I like the mishaps. I think in this case, I would come up with whatever schools of magic you want to have, and then make up your whatever you want to call it, mishaps and dooms, or corruption and chaos. However you want to label it, and come up for each ones for each schools. I thought I'll switch back to the GLOG window. I thought the stuff with the different differentiating between wizards and warlocks and sorcerers was interesting. The concept, if you missed out at the beginning, was that wizards are essentially the way wizards have always been. They're the most versatile. Warlocks get the kind of power bump, and then sorcerers get to cast a lot more spells. The document, we didn't really get little templates for these, and I didn't see links to any templates. So we don't know from this. Maybe I'll have to go, and if folks are interested, I can try to hunt up some actually fleshed out magic user classes, because we don't actually get them here in this document. We just get kind of broad brush type stuff. We get essentially three different versions of casting magic, but I like that each one there's a design goal, and there's a mechanic way we understand how we're trying to differentiate them, right? If we're looking at sorcerers, should be casting the ability to cast more spells, but maybe have the narrowest selection of spells. Warlocks get sort of power, cast the most powerful spells, but then have that they have to pay for it in blood, and they risk physically harming themselves. And then wizards being that maybe more baseline. Hey, they're the most versatile, but they're not going to be the most powerful. They're not going to necessarily get to cast the most, but they're going to have the most control over which spells they learn and not have any limitations as to what kind of spells they can learn, which I like. I have to finish it off, but we did workshop a Warlock. You can probably find the stream somewhere if you're interested in that. I hadn't looked at this yet. If I looked at this beforehand, that might have even influenced how we put together thinking about that Warlock. But I still need to put that together into a final form. We kind of workshopped a bunch of stuff. That was cool. Any last thoughts on this before I kind of close it out? And let me know, do you guys interested in more kind of GLOG stuff? I felt like I enjoyed the first stream on the GLOG in general with the kind of incomplete but interesting sort of base framework for GLOG. And then here we get but that was mostly on the mundane sort of martial side of GLOG. And here we got the magic using side of GLOG. The whole reason why I came, this stuff was posted in 2015, 2016, right? But it's the whole GLOG sphere is this ever evolving with tons of creativity and tons of hacks and tons of classes. There's a lot of stuff out there. So if folks are interested in delving more into GLOG stuff, I'm happy to. Like I said at the end of the last stream, now that I kind of know what GLOG is a bit and kind of how it works, I'm now in position to be able to read that stuff and kind of get the basics of where they're coming from and kind of what they're working with, what it means. So it's not going to be completely alien to me. Ovaltine Patrol says they're interested. Great. Nice to hear that. Let's see. Jack Nerdlord says, someone looking at creating a magic system. It was very informative. Thanks for sharing. Oh, great. I'm glad you liked it. And yeah, grab the links out of that. I think you're able to grab it out of the chat. And I think even later, if you're watching this on YouTube, I think you can do some setting, at least if you're on your computer, to get stuff out of chat. If you're watching it on your TV, I did post the links up as captions as well. So hopefully you can grab that and look at it. I actually I probably watch YouTube videos more on my TV than anything else. The stuff with chat is always kind of interesting because on the TV, it doesn't quite translate as well when you're not doing it. But yeah, let me know. And of course, you've got comments after this goes live or in the community tab on YouTube or anywhere else you can find me. Feel free to shoot me links to interesting GLOG stuff if you know it. And and let me know that, hey, you want to see more GLOG, and I'm happy to talk about it because it's kind of cool and interesting. And it's definitely given me some ideas and different perspectives on things. So always happy about that. But folks, have a great rest of your day. I'm going to get back to work, so to speak, or actually, no, literally get back to work. Before you leave, you give a thumbs up to the stream. I would appreciate it. If you found yourself in here and you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribing doesn't hurt you. It kind of helps me. So, and we'll let you know when more stuff like this is coming. So thanks for all of that. And thanks to all my patrons, everyone else who has been supportive of me in the past, present, and hopefully in the future. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Peace out, game on, and I'll talk to you later.